Hi, and welcome to the Anxiety Relief Revolution. I am Dan Candell, your anxiety relief guy. And if this is your first time listening, welcome to the conversation. If you are a veteran listener, welcome back. It's good to have you here and have you back. And in today's episode, we're going to get really weird and we're going to get really wonky. This is something I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about. And because it is so weird, it is so out there. And it's something that happened to me a couple of years ago. And you might be wondering, well, what does it have to do with anxiety? Well, I'm going to share that with you right now. Here's the long story short. A naked man tried to break into my house. Yes, let me say that again. A naked man tried to break into my house and almost succeeded. So let's talk about it. A couple of years ago, I was doing a hypnosis show. For those of you who've been following me for a while, or if you follow me on other social media platforms, you know I'm also a comedian, a hypnotist, and the occasional mind reader. And it was really interesting because I had just moved into this house a couple of years ago. Not the house where I'm living now. This was a different house. And I had a show in the city right next door to where I lived. So I do the show, and some shows I have security detail. So I do the show. There's probably about 2,000 people at the show. I leave. I go home. My mom, she was staying with me for the weekend because she just had back surgery. So she was sleeping on my couch. I was taking care of her. Excuse me if I cough every once in a while. I still have a little bit of a lingering cough going on there. So my mom was staying with me. She had just had back surgery. My friend was sleeping over. She was going to school for forensics. So she was sleeping over as well. So we had a full house. So all of a sudden at 4 o'clock in the morning, I hear my mom scream up the stairs to me, Dan, someone's trying to break in the house. Now my mom, she sleepwalks and she sleep talks. So I'm like, she's just out of her gourd. She had surgery. She's probably on pain meds, like whatever. And I roll over, try and go back to sleep. And then I actually hear banging. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck is happening right now? Yes, there was in fact someone trying to break into my house. So I called the police, and the dispatcher, she says, what's he wearing? What's the person wearing? So we can find him, because it was about 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning. And I'm like, I don't know. So I looked outside, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's wearing a necklace. And she said, what else? The dispatcher was like, what else is he wearing? I said, nothing. He's wearing a necklace. He's running willy-nilly through my yard right now. I'm like, oh my gosh. Now he's trying to throw himself up against my door. Oh, he's going to get in. He's going to get in. And I was like, it was scary. It was really, really scary. And then he started pelvic thrusting on my doorstep. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? The dispatcher was like, describe what he's doing. I'm like, okay, he's pelvic thrusting. And this is what the dispatcher says. She goes, I'm like, great, I have the comedian. So, oh my gosh, if you could, I wish we had like the 911 recording of this call, because it was just so insane. So, I run downstairs, and I said to my mom, I said, go get something to protect yourself. Like, go in the kitchen, get something to protect yourself. So she has a walker, and she's walking with her walker. Then she gets back into the living room, and oh my God, she has a salad fork. I'm like, what are you going to do with the salad fork? And she goes, I'm going to stab him in the, So this is just such a crazy, insane situation. So anyway, the police get there. Then they have an ambulance come. They haul the guy off into an ambulance, and the police, they come into my house, and one of them looks at the other one, and one police officer says to the other one, he's like, hey, Bob, I got this, which I thought was kind of weird. And so the police officer said, excuse me, is your name Dan Candell? I said, yes. He said, are you a hypnotist? I said, yes. He said, do you own this house? I said, yes. And what does me being a hypnotist have anything to do with the guy trying to break into my house? He said, well, did you just do a show earlier this evening? I said, yes. He said, this man claims you hypnotized him to run around naked, and he followed you home so you could remove the suggestion. And I goes, what? And the cop looks at me and he just bursts out laughing. He goes, "No, we're just busting your balls." He's like, I was the security detail for your show earlier this evening. We figured we'd mess around with you a little bit. I'm like, so do you know the naked guy? He's like, no, we don't know the naked guy. He's like, we don't know what happened there, but we got him. I'm like, can we find out why the naked guy was breaking into my house? So it's just like a weird situation. So you might be wondering, what does this have to do with anxiety? What in the world does this have to do with anxiety? Well, I'm going to tell you. There are appropriate times and places to feel anxious. Having a naked man break into your house is one of those times, obviously. If you're not anxious about, let's say someone was really trying to break into your house and you were just totally calm, cool, and collected about that, there's probably something wrong with you. That's not something that you should feel good about. Oh, yay, someone's trying to break into my house. Oh boy, here we go. That's probably not something you should want to have happen. But there are appropriate times and places to express and to feel anxiety. And that is one of them. So we all have a naked man. That's not what I mean. I mean, we all have a scenario where we feel appropriately anxious. What's your naked man scenario? What is a time or place in your life where you appropriately felt anxious about something? The reason why I ask you this is because when you can identify times, sorry about that, times, places, or situations where you felt anxious and it was appropriate, then you can begin to play this game in your mind. Like, okay, I understand now it's okay to feel anxious in that situation. It's not okay to feel anxious in that situation because this situation over here is safe and that situation is not. So when you start to identify situations where it's appropriate to feel anxiety versus where it's not appropriate to feel anxiety, you can begin to deconstruct some of that. So if you've been struggling with something or a situation that you're going into or you're about to go into and you feel anxious about it, and it's not, you don't feel it's appropriate to feel anxious about it, identify some times and places in your life where it was appropriate to feel anxious or where it would be appropriate to feel anxious. So that way, it's a way of satisfying your mind and saying it's okay for you to feel anxious if those situations come up. But in situations like this, I got it. I can protect myself because you are not your anxiety. You are not your anxiety. Anxiety is just a very small part that composes who you are, just a very small part. And sometimes it does its job too well. It has a job to keep you safe, to prevent you from embarrassing yourself, to prevent you from making reckless decisions. And that anxious part thinks the more it does that, the more you will be aware. And that's not the case. It's actually the opposite. So I tell you about the naked man situation because we all have a naked man situation in our life, a time or a place or a situation that's appropriate to feel anxious. So let me know. Reach out to me. What's your naked man situation? And whether you email me, whether you DM me, whether you leave it in a comment or even in a review, make sure you start off by saying it like this. Dan, this is my naked man, ... And then explain the situation. This is my naked man, ... And explain the situation. So that's what happened. Yep, that's what happened. A naked man tried to break into my house, and then the police officers who were the ones doing security detail, they figured it would be fun to mess with me. Now, here's another fun fact. That's not the first time someone tried to break into my house. I've actually had break-ins 2 other times, so a total of 3 times. And 2 out of the 3 times, the police decided to play a joke on me because they knew I was the hypnotist. Excuse me. So one of the other times someone broke into my house, I wasn't home, and it was, again, another weird situation. Like someone who lived, I lived in an apartment, in an apartment at the time. there was a guy living above me. And when I went to go do a show, I came back and a bunch of my stuff was missing. And there was a hole in my ceiling. This guy literally banged a hole in my ceiling and came through my ceiling, took a bunch of my stuff, and left. So the police come. And when the police come, they got a call from the next door neighbor who said, I want to call an anonymous tip. I know who did it. And of course, he told us who did it. So before the police officers go upstairs to arrest this guy or to question him, they're like, wait a minute, aren't you the hypnotist? Hypnotize me. So here I am in my driveway of my apartment that was just robbed, hypnotizing these two goofball cops because at the time I was dumb enough to to comply and be like, okay. And these two police officers, like on duty, I was like hypnotizing them in the driveway of my apartment. And my best friend Amanda was there as well. And it was just so surreal because we saw the guy who broke into my apartment. He was upstairs laughing at the fact that I'm sitting there hypnotizing these guys and he's getting away scot-free. So in the midst of me doing this, the guy starts laughing and then he jumps out of his window off the roof and starts running. Now we see this, and my friend Amanda and I, like two idiots, we start running after him. And the police are just standing back like, well, they'll catch him. So he ended up running into a bar that was close to my apartment at the time, and the police went and arrested him. They got my stuff back and everything like that. But that's another time my one of my residences was broken into. And another time was when I was very young. My dad went outside to smoke a cigarette. Someone had just robbed the bank right down the street from our house. And the guy who robbed the bank was running through my parents' backyard. It was like, again, 3:30 in the morning. My dad was smoking a cigarette outside. And the guy saw my dad, and my dad walked back inside and left the door open. And my dad went to bed. So my dad heard someone run into the house, ran down into our basement, and my dad picked up the phone to call the police, but the guy who robbed the bank was already on the phone. This was when phones on walls were a thing, where they were corded phones. So the guy who robbed the bank was already on the phone calling a taxi cab to pick him up outside of our house. So, and then the guy ran back out. He didn't steal anything. Good thing. He didn't harm any of us. Great guy, I'm sure. and the guy ran back out of the house, got a taxi cab, and just these are just things. Maybe you have this kind of life too, where everyone's like, only you. That stuff would only happen to you. So that's my life. So there's a little insight into my life of the 3 times where somebody broke into my house. Now, here's where this could also go into a pattern, which we have to be careful of. For some people, that could cause a fear. And the fear could be, I have a fear because it happened once, because it happened twice, because it happened 3 times, it's more likely to happen again. And it's not more likely to happen again because those were 3 distinct times. Those were 3 separate times where they have nothing to do with one another, and it doesn't make it more or less likely to happen. So that's another lesson here is if something happens where you feel anxious about it or it's a situation that produces anxiety and makes you feel anxious, it doesn't mean it's going to keep happening, and it doesn't mean it's going to happen again. And we have to start separating those situations and saying that is a one-time thing. So with that said, my friends, I know this was a weird episode, but it's something that I just felt the need to tell all of you. So again, what's your naked man? What's your naked man scenario or situation where you've appropriately felt anxiety or you appropriately felt stressed? Or maybe you just want to tell a story of like something weird that happened to you and you're like, this makes sense, and it would only happen to me. So let me know. Reach out to me. I'd love to hear. As always, my friends, be well, do good, and be true to who you are. and happy healing. Thank you for joining me and being a part of the anxiety relief revolution. If you haven't already, make sure you rate, subscribe, and give a 5-star review. It really helps me help you. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on another episode.